Good morning, and thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My name is Stan Yates, and I'm the President of the Royal Australian Navy Corvettes Association Victorian branch, who served this nation in World War II with 56 ships. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today on this special day of commemoration for Anzac Day and its significance for our wonderful country of Australia. At the outbreak of Great War in 1914, Australia was almost regarded as an outpost of the British Empire, with its relatively small population having a very high percentage of migrants from the British Isles. So in effect, when war was declared, Australia also declared war to fight for the motherland and freedom. At those times, Australia was quite isolated from the rest of the world. Being distant from Europe and America, contact was by ship and communication mainly by cable and mail. England asked for assistance, and Australia responded by recruiting its Navy and Army for service overseas, and all were volunteers. I think you would all be aware of how the name Anzac was formed by using the initials of the Australian New Zealand Army Corps, particularly after their first experience of the horrors of war, the landing on the Gallipoli Peninsula of Turkey by sea on the 25th of April 1915, eventually with such disastrous loss of so many young servicemen. For Mr. Reed's just telling about his family, my family, more or less patterns the same way. For my father's family, 4 boys volunteered in early 1915. The first 2, aged 23 and 22, were landed at Gallipoli. After the action there, they were later evacuated to safety in Alexandria. My father joined mid-1915, aged 22, and several months later, another brother, aged 20, volunteered. So my grandparents had 4 boys overseas on active service, as did so many other families. They were sent to the front lines in France, and the 2 who survived Gallipoli, although in different battalions, the 21st and the 23rd, were in the same action on the Somme. One killed on 31st of July 1916, and the other died from wounds from the same action on the 9th of August. My grandmother received notice of their deaths in the same week. My father safely weathered the battles of the Somme and was badly injured in the action of Bullecourt on the 3rd of May 1917, taking 3 days to get back to his own company and then being evacuated to hospital in England. The youngest brother was driving ambulances in France and remained unharmed on the 11th of November 1918. This Great War of 1914-18 was said to be the war to end all wars, but history shows that only 21 years later, on 3rd September 1939, we became embroiled in World War II. Great advances have been made in that time: sciences, communication, transport, now air travel, manufacturing, productivity. And because of the widespread areas of combat, this war was engaged in many areas in distinction to the dreadful trench warfare of 1914-18. Our services were engaged in all areas of action: England, Middle East, North Africa, Near East, New Guinea, etc. And the entry of Japan after Pearl Harbor on 7th of December 1941 was of grave concern to the safety of our country because of proximity to enemy action virtually on our doorstep. Bombing of Darwin on 19th of February 1942, down to Broome on the northwest coast, sinking of many ships on the east coast, over 23 of them, brought us right in the middle of conflict in the southwest Pacific area. We were in the war. In my own particular case, when I left college, 17, I tried to enlist straight away. They said, "Come back when you're 18, son." I'm sure a few of us others turned that way. I was sure that in the 6 long months of waiting till my birthday, the war would be over and I'd miss a great opportunity for adventure. I joined the Navy as a supply assistant, and after initial training and victualling, provision of food to the sailors, I was drafted to a brand new corvette, the HMAS Stawell, the last ship to be built at Williamstown Dockyard. When joining the ship's company, I found that about 75% of the crew were only 18 and 19 years old, never even been to sea before. What a day. What a responsibility on my shoulders as an 18-year-old to be in charge of all the provisions, arranging supply in conjunction with the ship's cook, creating menus, supplying the stores, to enable all the meals to be prepared for 75 people 3 times a day, and being one of the crew who'd never been to sea. My generation was brought up on the stories of World War I, deeds of remarkable bravery, and attending the Anzac Day marches and Remembrance Day commemoration services, going to see my father marching with the 24th Battalion, with a huge crowd when Anzac was a closed day, an important part of our heritage. For me, what a real life adventure this was going to be. Most of us, very few of us have been past Mordialloc, let alone interstate or overseas. What excitement. As will all our contemporaries in all of the services, my generation was soon brought back to reality by the daily grind. In my case at sea, on the constant alert, shepherding convoys, taking landing parties of army personnel, experience of extremely heavy seas, constant seasickness, extreme movement of the small ship. The corvettes were only a small ship, 800 tonnes. The always expectation of action any moment, with the destruction of lives and property, a very real proposition. This was our adventure. In World War I, the women of Australia were represented mainly in the nursing section of the hospitals overseas in advanced areas, field hospitals close to the front lines, and performed their wonderful works for the service people. In World War II, there are very substantial differences. The formation of the women's service of Navy, the RANs, Army, the AWARs, Air Force, the RAFs, plus their medical counterpart in each of these divisions. And they all played the most important part in very special areas, signals, etc. Also by releasing men to join the action overseas. Because of the obvious shortage of manpower in industry, many women took up challenge of all sorts of work never before done by women in this country. Factory work and munitions, manufacture, production of all kinds, tram and train drivers and conductors for the first time, and also on the land fishing and food production. So that the whole nation of Australia contributed to the war effort of Australia and eventually won through to success in August 1945 after the very long and terrible 6 years period of the war. War is a terrible thing, absolutely relentless with horrible carnage, leaving behind great trails of misery and injury for many years. But there are times in our lives when a stand has to be made to protect our people and this wonderful country of Australia with our highly valued democratic way of life. With all our education worldwide and the history of so many battles, the governments of our countries still have not been able to agree on negotiations and considerations of others, and still resort to warfare, which is going on in this world somewhere at this present time. A better method must be found. Today we are in no way celebrating war and conflict, but to honour those members of our services, both men and women who have given their lives, or are still bearing the scars, both physical and mental, of the conflicts in the service of their country, and for our freedom, and for those who also served and since passed on to the reward and to the survivors. Democracy which we have here is a very strange thing. We hand to those who oppose it the very means to work against it. The price of peace is eternal vigilance, and freedom belongs to those who defend it. Lest we forget. Thank you.